Dr. Alina Reyes pressed her palm against the biometric scanner, her heart hammering as the laboratory doors hissed open. 3 a.m. security minimal. Perfect. She shouldn't be here. The extraterrestrial samples were classified beyond her clearance level, but desperation had erased her sense of caution. Her fiancé Daniel Torres lay in their apartment, his abdomen swelling with internal bleeding after the containment breach explosion earlier that evening. The paramedics said 20 minutes. He had maybe 10. Her fingers trembled as she extracted the crimson-black serum from the cryo chamber. The alien cells pulsed with bioluminescence, casting eerie shadows across her face. Every protocol screamed at her to stop. Every instinct as a scientist warned of catastrophic consequences. But she loved him more than she feared the unknown. Daniel's breathing was shallow when she burst through their apartment door, the syringe clutched in her fist. His eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain. "Alina, can't breathe! Stay with me, baby. Please." She knelt beside him, uncapping the needle with her teeth. "This is going to hurt, but trust me. Trust me like you always have." She plunged the needle into his chest, directly above his heart. Daniel's body convulsed violently. His back arched off the floor, veins lighting up beneath his skin like circuitry igniting. A sound tore from his throat, something between a scream and something else. Something that didn't sound entirely human. Then silence. For 3 terrible seconds, he didn't breathe. Then his eyes snapped open, bright, alert, and utterly clear. The color had changed. Instead of warm brown, they gleamed with flecks of silver. "Alina?" His voice was steady, confused. What did you do?" She collapsed against him, sobbing with relief as his strong arms wrapped around her. His heartbeat thundered against her ear, too fast, too powerful, but steady. "I saved you," she whispered. "God help me, I saved you." That night, they made love with desperate intensity, her need to feel him alive overwhelming everything else. His skin was fever-hot beneath her fingertips, his touch more sensitive than she'd ever known. When he kissed her neck, she could swear she felt electricity dancing across her skin. Afterward, as they lay tangled in sweat-dampened sheets, Daniel stared at his hands in the moonlight filtering through their window. "I feel different," he murmured. "Like something's waking up inside me." Alina pressed closer, fear and exhaustion claiming her. "We'll figure it out tomorrow. Together." But even as sleep claimed them both, she didn't see the faint glow that pulsed once beneath his ribcage, synchronized with a distant signal light years away. 3 days later, Alina knew she'd made a terrible mistake. Daniel stood in their bathroom, shirtless, staring at his reflection with an expression caught between wonder and horror. The wounds from the explosion had vanished completely, not even scars remained. His physique had changed too, muscles more defined, his entire frame seeming to hum with barely contained energy. "Watch," he said, holding up his hand. Before Alina could respond, he pressed his palm against the mirror. Frost spread from his fingertips in crystalline patterns, covering the glass in seconds. "Jesus Christ, Daniel! That's not all." He turned to face her, and his eyes, those silver-flecked eyes, seemed to peer straight through her. "I can hear Mr. Hernandez arguing with his wife 3 floors down. I can smell the coffee brewing in the shop 2 blocks away. And last night..." He hesitated. "Last night I dreamed in a language I don't know, but somehow I understood every word." Alina's scientific mind warred with her terror. She'd been monitoring his blood samples in secret at the lab. His DNA was restructuring at the molecular level, incorporating the alien sequences with frightening efficiency. It wasn't rejection, it was integration. Evolution in real time. "We need to run more tests," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Controlled environment, proper equipment. No labs." Daniel's voice carried unexpected command. No one can know about this, Alina. You said it yourself. This research is classified. If they find out what you did, what's happening to me? He crossed to her, cupping her face with hands that were both familiar and alien. They'll cut me open to study what I'm becoming. She wanted to argue, but he was right. The agency running the extraterrestrial project operated in shadows, accountable to no one. They disappeared Daniel without a trace. Then we run, she whispered. Pack everything. My cousin has a cabin in. Daniel's eyes widened, pupils dilating. Someone's coming. 2 men. Black SUV. They'll be at our door in 90 seconds. How could you possibly? I just know. His fingers tightened on her shoulders. Like I'm connected to something bigger. Like I can feel the pattern of everything around us. They barely made it out the fire escape as heavy fists pounded their front door. Alina's laptop bag bounced against her hip as they ran, containing the only copies of her research data and evidence of what she'd done. That night, hidden in a cheap motel 40 miles away, they clung to each other with desperate passion. Daniel's touch was electric, his kisses almost supernaturally intense. When he moved inside her, Alina felt something beyond physical pleasure, a connection that seemed to transcend flesh, as if their thoughts were bleeding into each other. Afterward, as she lay with her head on his chest, listening to that too-fast heartbeat, Daniel whispered, I'm scared, Lena. What if I stop being me? What if this thing inside overwrites who I am? She held him tighter. Then I'll remind you. Every day. I'll bring you back. But she didn't tell him about the nausea she'd been experiencing. The missed period. The impossible suspicion growing in her mind alongside the life potentially growing in her womb. 2 weeks of running left them exhausted, paranoid, and virtually broke. They'd abandoned their phones, used only cash, and moved constantly through small towns where facial recognition was less likely. Daniel's abilities continued evolving. He could now move objects with focused thought, see in complete darkness, and worst of all, he'd started losing time. Hours would vanish, and he'd wake with no memory of what he'd done. Alina knew they couldn't run forever. But the morning she vomited for the 3rd consecutive day, a different kind of terror gripped her. The pregnancy test in the gas station bathroom showed 2 pink lines. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold the stick. They'd been careful, mostly, but that first night after his transformation, desperation had overridden caution, and her cycle had always been unpredictable. Baby, you've been in there for 20 minutes. Daniel's voice carried through the door, edged with concern. Are you okay? She emerged, wordless, and showed him the test. Daniel's expression cycled through shock, joy, and then dawning horror as the implications crashed over him. Oh God! Alina, my DNA, if the baby has... We don't know anything yet. But her voice lacked conviction. They pooled their remaining cash for an appointment at a sketchy urgent care clinic, using false names. The ultrasound technician, a tired woman who didn't ask questions, squinted at the screen for a long moment before her expression shifted to confusion. That's unusual, she muttered, adjusting the transducer. How far along did you say you were? Maybe 3 weeks? Alina's throat was dry. Honey, this measures at nearly 8 weeks. Are you sure about your dates? The technician pointed at the screen. And I'm seeing some anomalous readings in the amniotic fluid. You should really see a specialist. We're fine. Daniel's voice carried an edge that made the woman flinch. Just print the images. In their car, Alina studied the ultrasound with shaking hands. The fetus was developing impossibly fast. But worse, far worse, were the energy signatures her trained eye could barely believe. Faint pulses of light that shouldn't be visible on a standard ultrasound. The same bioluminescent signature as the alien cells. It's not human, she whispered. Not entirely. Daniel, what have I done? I didn't just change you. I've created something. Our child. His hand covered hers, protective. Whatever it is, it's ours. We'll protect it. That night, in another anonymous motel, their lovemaking carried a different quality, tender, desperate, tinged with grief for the normal life they'd never have. Daniel worshipped her body with reverent touches, his hands lingering on her still flat stomach, as if he could feel the alien life growing there. I love you, he whispered against her skin. Both of you. Whatever happens. Alina wanted to believe they could handle this. But as she drifted towards sleep, Daniel's eyes snapped open in the darkness. Alina! Someone's calling me! Not with words, with something else. A signal. It's getting stronger. His voice carried strange harmonics. I think I need to answer. Answer? Answer what? But Daniel was already standing, walking toward the window as if pulled by invisible strings. When he spoke again, his voice overlaid with something ancient and utterly inhuman. They're coming! The creators! And they want their property returned. Daniel collapsed before he reached the window, his body seizing violently. Alina caught him as he fell, cradling his head as foam flecked his lips. His eyes rolled back, showing only silver-white crescents. Daniel! Stay with me! She checked his pulse, racing at over 200 beats per minute, yet somehow steady. Impossibly, his skin had gone ice-cold despite the seizure. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. He blinked up at her, and for a terrible moment, she didn't recognize the consciousness looking out through his eyes. Then familiarity returned, but changed. Deeper, more aware. I saw them, he rasped. Alina, I saw where the ship came from. What they are. Why they sent the biological samples to Earth. His fingers dug into her arms with supernatural strength. It wasn't an accident. It was a test. Seeding protocols into promising species. You're not making sense. We're not the first. He sat up, movements unnaturally fluid. Dozens of worlds. Hundreds. They spread their DNA like viral evolution, waiting for integration. And when a hybrid successfully develops, he pressed his palm against her stomach. When a viable offspring is created, it triggers a recall signal. Alina felt her blood turn to ice. What kind of recall? Harvest. They come to collect their successful experiments. Study them. Improve the next iteration. His voice cracked with very human fear. We're not parents, Alina. We're incubators for their research. She wanted to deny it, but everything aligned too perfectly with her research data. The alien cells weren't random biological material. They were engineered with intentional integration protocols, designed to rewrite human DNA from the inside out. Then we cut it out? The words tasted like ash. I terminate the pregnancy before the signal. Too late. Daniel's hand remained on her stomach, and she felt it now, a pulse beneath her skin that matched the rhythm of his altered heartbeat. The signal's already broadcasting. Has been since conception. They're coming, Alina. Maybe weeks, maybe days, but they're coming. A crash from outside made them both freeze. Through the window, Alina spotted 3 black SUVs screeching into the parking lot. Not the alien visitors, worse. Government agents. Out the back. Now! Daniel moved with inhuman speed, grabbing their bag while practically carrying Alina toward the bathroom window. They barely squeezed through when the motel door exploded inward. Alina heard shouting, tactical commands, the distinctive whump of flashbangs. Daniel pulled her through the darkness with perfect precision, his enhanced senses navigating the terrain behind the building. They stole a car. Daniel hotwired it in under 10 seconds and drove through the night. Alina's mind raced, trying to formulate any plan that didn't end with them dissected in a government lab or harvested by extraterrestrial beings. There might be one option, she said as dawn broke over empty highway. In my research, I found fragmented data about a previous incident. 1987, Colorado. A different crash site. The team lead's notes mentioned something about a rejection protocol, a way to reverse the integration before full metamorphosis. Where's this team lead now? Disappeared in 1991. But his last known address was archived in the files I copied. She pulled out her laptop, running on fumes of battery life. If anyone knows how to undo this, it's Dr. Ellis Vance. If he's still alive. As she searched the encrypted files, Daniel reached over and took her hand. Even now, touching him sent electric tingles up her arm, physical evidence of how far from human he'd become. Lena, if we can't reverse this, if the choice comes down to me or the baby, don't. She squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt. We save both of you, or we go down fighting. Those are the only options I'm accepting. He managed a weak smile. That's my girl. But neither of them mentioned the elephant in the room. Even if they found Dr. Vance, even if a reversal existed, they were running out of time on two fronts. The government closing in. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, something ancient and utterly inhuman had received their signal. And it was coming to collect its due. Dr. Ellis Vance's cabin sat at the end of a winding mountain road, isolated by design. Alina's research had led them here after 3 days of driving, stealing food, and staying ahead of both government agents and the increasing frequency of Daniel's episodes. The man who answered their desperate knocking was elderly but sharp-eyed, his face carved with decades of secrets. He studied them for exactly 5 seconds before stepping aside. "You're hybrid positive," he said to Daniel. Not a question. "And she's carrying integration offspring. Didn't think I'd see another case before I died." Inside, the cabin was a fortress of research, walls covered in equations, specimen jars lined with preserved alien tissue, and monitoring equipment that hummed with purpose. "The 1987 incident," Alina began, but Vance cut her off. "I didn't just study the crash. I survived integration myself." He rolled up his sleeve, revealing skin with faint silver veining beneath the surface. "Managed to halt the metamorphosis at 60% conversion. But complete reversal?" He shook his head. "There is no reversal. Only stasis. And even that requires constant treatment." Daniel sagged against the wall. "So I'm trapped like this. Worse." Vance pulled out a star chart, marking a point with trembling fingers. "The convergence signal your conception triggered? It's not just calling one ship. Based on my calculations, you've activated a network spanning this entire galactic sector. They'll arrive in approximately 48 hours. Why?" Alina's voice cracked. "What do they want with a hybrid child? Evolution." Vance's expression held terrible knowledge. "They're not invaders. They're gardeners. They see compatible species across thousands of worlds, wait for successful integration, then harvest the resulting hybrids. Each generation refines their understanding of biological compatibility. They're creating the perfect universal organism, one that can survive anywhere, adapt to anything." "That's insane," Daniel said, but his hand moved protectively to Alina's stomach. "We're not experiments. This is our child. To you, yes. To them?" Vance opened a journal filled with alien script that somehow Alina could partially understand, evidence of her own passive exposure to Daniel's transformed DNA. "Your proof of concept. They'll take the child, study it, and likely—" he hesitated, "likely terminate the parents. Loose ends." Alina felt something inside her snap. All the fear, the running, the impossible choices, it crystallized into cold fury. "No. She stood, moving to Vance's equipment. You said stasis is possible. If we can halt the baby's development, maybe we can mask the signal. Buy time to find a real solution. The dosage for a developing fetus. I'm a genetic researcher. I can calculate it. Her fingers flew over his data. Daniel, I need your blood. Fresh sample. As she worked through the night, developing a serum that might save their child, Daniel stood watch at the window. His enhanced senses detected the government helicopters 30 miles out, closing in. And beyond that, something else. A presence in the sky that shouldn't be there. Ships decelerating from impossible speeds. Alina, we're out of time. She didn't look up from the centrifuge. 5 more minutes. We don't have 5. The windows exploded inward as tactical teams rappelled through. Vance hit a kill switch, locking the lab down with reinforced shutters, but they were trapped. Daniel's eyes blazed silver white. The transformation he'd been fighting surged forward, and his body began to change, bones lengthening, muscles reforming into something magnificent and terrible. Alina, take the serum and run. His voice carried harmonics that shattered glass. There's a tunnel behind the bookshelf. It leads a mile into the forest. I'm not leaving you. You have to. He was barely recognizable now, his form shifting between human and something else. If they take me, I can maybe hold them off. But that baby, our baby, it's the only thing that matters now. Vance grabbed her arm. He's right. The serum won't work if you're dead. Outside, an unearthly light descended from the sky. Not government tech. Something ancient and powerful. The convergence had arrived. Alina made her choice. She injected herself with the stasis serum, kissed Daniel one last time, his lips still familiar despite the transformation consuming him, and let Vance drag her toward the tunnel. The last thing she saw was Daniel, more alien than human, standing between her escape and the forces converging from both earth and sky. His final words echoed in her mind, carried on a frequency that transcended sound. Find me again, in whatever I become. Promise me. The tunnel collapsed behind her as explosions rocked the cabin. Alina ran through darkness, one hand on her stomach where the serum was already taking effect, slowing the signal, buying precious time. Above the forest, massive ships descended, their purposes ancient and absolute. But within Alina Reyes, something stirred, a child that carried the genetic legacy of 2 worlds. And she would die before letting anyone take it. The awakening had begun. But so had the resistance. The end? Or perhaps the beginning?